Okay, hi everybody, and welcome. Thanks very much for joining us for today's webinar, AI and the Future of Email Marketing. My name's Tom, and I'm really excited for this one because if you've been following the whirlwind of AI developments this year, you'll know that the inbox is becoming one of the most fascinating and frankly unpredictable frontiers in marketing. Today, we're going to explore what happens when artificial intelligence stops being the tool we use and starts being the thing that interprets and summarizes and even rewrites what we send to our audiences. How does that change deliverability? How do we keep the human side of email alive when AI starts deciding what gets seen? To unpack all of this, we've got two of the best minds in the business with us. First up, Travis Hazelwood, Auto's head of email deliverability. Some of you will know Travis already from his incredible work helping our customers master email strategy and deliverability. He has a wealth of experience, and when he's not working with our fantastic customers, he's sharing knowledge and best practices on his LinkedIn feed, regular blogs and articles across the web. And joining Travis today is Chad S. White, who quite literally wrote the book on this stuff called Email Marketing Rules. He's currently the GVP of CRM strategy at Zeta Global. Chad has spent decades studying how inbox providers evolve, how deliverability has changed through what he calls the 7 ages of email deliverability, and what marketers can do to adapt with strategy and integrity. Together, they're going to break down the biggest changes happening inside the inbox right now, what they mean for marketers, and how you can get ahead of the curve. So before we dive in, a few quick housekeeping notes. We are recording today's session and we'll share the replay afterwards. If you have questions for Travis or Chad, drop them in the comments. We'll tackle them, as many as we can at the end. And thanks very much. Now, looks like we've got a great mix today. Thanks for dropping the where you're from in the comments, but we should get into it. So Travis, over to you to kick off what's really going on when we say AI in email marketing.
Thanks, Tom. We're super excited to talk about this today because, honestly, this topic has been something on both Chad and I's mind for quite a while. Chad and I actually met in person. I've been following him online for years, of course, with all the content he's been putting out. But we met in person at a conference in May called Inbox Expo, where Chad was the opening keynote, and he talked about some of these elements that we're going to talk about today. What was interesting is as we've had conversations since then online, we both saw that we were both putting together some dots that we're not seeing kind of publicly talked about as much as they should be, connecting a lot of these things, these new trends we're seeing in the inbox, especially to say what impact they're going to have on us marketers. So we're really excited to talk about that today, specifically how AI, starting at how AI is changing email inboxes. So, when we talk to marketers and how all these conversations, even on the back end in the deliverability spaces, the question pops up: what is next for AI specifically with email marketing? And the really common things are boiled down to these 3 talking points. Content generation, very obviously, more content with less work. Data analysis, helping you really get deeper into understanding your audiences and how they are engaging with things. And of course, what we all really want, some intuitive development that is sophisticated implementation, but is done with very few keystrokes, very little effort, really. And so that's what a lot of people are focused on. They're even so much on how that can be implemented to speed up deliverability, things like inboxing versus spam filtering and things like that. But as we're seeing some of these improvements in the inbox with AI, we're seeing a trend that before all of these toolings that are going to really be helping marketers, we're already seeing them. Ordo's putting out a lot of different platforms are as well. But really, before we can see any traction on people's marketing from those tools, we're already beginning to see the potential of impact that will likely, shadow those for some time with some of these new changes. in the inbox, that like Gmail and Yahoo and different providers. So we're going to talk about some of those today and give you some examples, kind of dive into how they should be understood in the context together and what they mean for our marketing strategy improvements moving forward. So we'll start with AI regeneration of content. Now, when we say AI regeneration of content, what we're talking about is AI's attempt in the inbox to summarize or minimize the content to fit in bite-sized blurbs or interfaces. So I'd like to throw this over to Chad, as he's got some really neat talking points here.
Yeah, so there's been like this drip drop of all these developments over the past several years. And really what we're hoping to do is to connect all of these dots and make everybody understand that a lot is happening all in the same vein, but they've just kind of been dribbled out. So we're hoping to like really build a picture here. So let's start with sort of, I think, the oldest example, which is from Gmail. And you'll probably hear me talk about like AI summaries, and I will use that in sort of a broad term. It's been like very specifically applied to Apple, but I feel like things like annotations, they're really AI summaries as well. And so really Gmail was the first, and essentially what they've done is they've replaced preview text with annotations. And this used to be a completely opt-in thing you could do. You could still do that now. You could still code annotations in. And this functionality has been around for, I think, about 8 years. So a long time. And it really wasn't used after being played around with initially, and it's very clear that Gmail wants brands to use it. I think it's mostly because it makes our emails look like Gmail's ads that they put in the inbox. I think that's the main reason. So they want their ads to look more native. And so now they're not really giving us a choice anymore. So now they're doing this thing called automatic extraction, which essentially they're forcing schema onto our emails. They're scanning our emails and they are generating schema code and applying it to our emails. And here are some examples of what that looks like, sort of the simpler sort of deal structured annotations. And I'm sharing these examples because they demonstrate, frankly, all the different ways in which it's maybe suboptimal. Sometimes these work pretty decently, but a lot of times they're not really what you want. After all, you had planned for your preview text to be there. So for instance, with the Levi's example, it's slightly redundant, right? In the subject line, they're talking about 30% off. So they're, it's an intensifier, I suppose, but maybe there was a secondary item that you would have liked to show up there instead, that maybe that's how you wrote your preview text. The Neiman Marcus example, the subject line is talking about 25% off. The automatic extraction content is talking about 80% off. Which is it? Is it 80%? Is it 25%? God, I hope it's 80%, but it's probably not. It's probably not, and that's going to be disappointing, and people will be disappointed with Neiman Marcus. In the Vineyard Vines, it is the expiration date, which in this case is not accurate. This was the day this email was sent, and it was already getting an expired tag on it. It was not expired, so that's not great, right? That's going to torpedo your engagement when people see that this offer is already expired. Well, I'm not going to bother opening this email. And then with the Duluth email, clearly the strategy with the subject line was to withhold this information around the deal to get you to open it. And Gmail is saying, nope, let's go ahead and offer up that promo code right there in the inbox, pre-open, and you can just go over to your browser, put in Duluth Trading, and get your discount. So there's a lot of variety of ways in which annotations can really kind of sabotage or confuse your subscribers and the kind of experience you're trying to create. So this is sort of the OG of what I would call AI summaries. All right, so next is Apple Mail. And the nice thing I would say about Apple Mail is that AI summaries are not available on all Apple devices. It's roughly about half, maybe a little bit less than half, because Apple Intelligence only works on the high-end iPhone 15s and then 16 and onward. And so we're sort of like mid-ish replacement cycle for a lot of iPhones And I think that replacement cycle is probably a little bit slower this time. So probably a little bit less than half. I don't think people are blown away by the latest iPhones. It's not that must-have thing, I think, right now. The other sort of really genius thing that they did with Apple Intelligence is that they essentially offloaded all of the hosting, all of the compute, and all of the power necessary for AI onto individuals' devices. So when you're using Apple Intelligence, you are saving Apple from having to host all of that and power all that themselves. It's really, I think, kind of genius. And it's in the name of privacy, as so many of the things that Apple does is. But frankly, it's like a huge cost saving for Apple to push all of that onto end users. It's kind of genius. But in this example, which I pulled from Knack, and I really like these because actually some of these examples, I think the AI actually does a slightly better job than the original preview text. So this is my attempt to be like fair and balanced here. There are some cases where brands are not doing it right. But I think in general, most brands are doing it right. Like preview text is something we talked about 10 years ago, and definitely there was a long struggle in like getting people to really pay attention and control that preview text. And so I think there's an example here, unfortunately, from Mailjet, where you can see like some of their administrative links at the top of their email are getting into their preview text. You can see it says visit Mailjet, about us. That's stuff that you wouldn't want to get into your preview text, but that's clearly text they have at the top of their email. But I think that is really rare nowadays. And so in most cases, I feel like, especially in the case of Apple, but all these sort of generative AI-based summaries, they're mostly just moving some words around that are already there. And so they're not really, it's not innovative. It's not really changing the inbox experience in a wild way. And I can't help but feel like with Apple in particular, like their heart is not in this. And they've gotten dinged for a lot of commercials that have been like really tone deaf. I think they're trying really hard to like prove it to Wall Street that like they get AI and that they get generative AI, but I feel like their heart's like not really in it, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it feels like in cases like this, it really is a lot of inbox providers like looking for a problem that they can apply generative AI to appear innovative. And I think they kind of found a non-problem. Like there's not really like a vast problem where, wow, brands really are just awful at writing preview text. No, brands are really pretty great, pretty fantastic at writing preview text. Maybe some smaller brands not so good, but by and large, this is not like a new innovation. This is an area of strength, I think, for email marketers. So in general, I think this is like a technology hunting for a problem in this case. And I'm kind of surprised. I mean, with Apple, it makes a lot of sense because they're offloading all of the cost onto end users. But like it is a little perplexing to me that other inbox providers who are shouldering all of that cost are actually using AI in this low yield way.
Yeah, and talking about that, let's go into how Yahoo's using it kind of the most, it seems like.
Yeah, so the thing that is disturbing about what Yahoo Mail started to do, and I don't know how pervasive this is relatively new, but you can see with the Tommy Bahama email, you got the sender name, you've got the bolded subject line, and then you have the non-bolded preview text. For Mileage Plus program and Fidelity Smart Money, you can see there is no bolded subject line because there is no subject line. They have used AI summaries to replace both the preview text and the subject line, which is bold, very bold. Preview text, I feel like, is a little bit of this, semi-created space, but subject lines are subject lines. That's like very clearly core to a message, and Yahoo has decided, nope, not core to the message. We're just going to replace that with stuff that we want to say.
Yeah, the marketing world cries out their most
Yeah.
precious tool for engagement, getting that visibility and bringing people in. And I've even seen, I know like they're betaing, it's very new, but I've even seen situations where the summary that was elevated was some niche content, like secondary block, nothing related to the actual content of the email. And it just washed out the entire subject line and everything, which it was an email that required action. It was like a confirmation sign up email. And so, yeah,
Yeah, and
crazy.
that's not unique. You see that with Gmail as well, like their annotations. I didn't show any of the examples where they pull in images from the email. That
Mhm.
happens quite frequently as well, and I think that's where I've seen like the biggest misfires in terms of like tertiary content being like pulled up.
Okay.
But sometimes even the deal content is like pulled from the legalese at the bottom of the email.
Mm.
So like sometimes the annotations will be talking about 25% off, and that 20% off is like some disclaimer at the bottom of the email talking about like employee discounts of 25% and like how they can't be used in combination, with the deals in this email. So yeah, that's not unique. So far we've been talking about just sort of pre-open email content, but this is also happening post-open in the inbox as well. Gmail here, and Gmail is really, in this case, they're following in the footsteps of Yahoo. Yahoo did this first. I think Gmail is maybe doing this a little bit more polished way, but these are called deal cards, which they launched at the very beginning of this year, and you now have the ability to code them just like annotations. So you can Google that, and you could find those instructions on how to do it if you want to, but you can see that. But this also gets forced upon you in the same way that annotations do. So if you code it, it'll maybe show up if your reputation is good and the Gmail gods smile upon you. Other times they won't show up, and they'll just be they'll be overwritten.
Right.
I've heard of other cases where people code annotations, they code deal cards, and that coding gets ignored, and Google puts in the code that they want to put in, that they think
Very
is
classic.
better, or their bots think are better. So, but the big thing here is that, so this is also happening in the inbox, in the preview pane, and Travis was having a minor fit. Oh no, let's go back. Let's stay on that. So Travis was having a minor fit about losing subject lines. I mean, which arguably is massive. That's massive. But also, like in these cases, sometimes you can lose more than half of the preview pane, which is also like just prime real estate. A lot of people, when they're going through their inbox, they're not scrolling, they're just looking at what's showing up in the preview pane. And in a lot of cases, with the Clinique email, you can see it's pushed all the content below the fold, besides like the header, and they've got a preview pane banner there, which is which is a little bit hard to read, on this screenshot, but it's shoving a lot of the content. So you're not even seeing the primary content block anymore. So this is really major too, that they're making the decision that they're going to decide what's the most important content in this email. And in many cases, they're highlighting the primary, discount or whatever. But it's I feel like it puts a lot of emphasis just on that. And I think we're probably going to start to see emails that are designed with fewer secondary content blocks, because they're just not going to get like the eyeballs because of this content being pushed down. It's really making our emails more one note, which I think is really, really unfortunate, because so much of the content today that's personalized is not in the primary content block, it's in secondary content blocks. And so that really high performing, personalized content, I think is being diminished by deal cards putting a lot of focus just on the primary content block. But even here, Travis, as you mentioned, like the AI is getting these deals wrong. There was another Clinique email that I saw just last night where it had a promo code, fall gift. That was the promo code. So as you might discern from that promo code, not a discount, but the deal card said 25% off, and then it said, promo code is fall gift. Total mismatch. The primary content block was about a gift, like these 10, this pack of 10 gifts from Clinique that you would get with an $88 purchase, I think is what it's, 88 minimum dollar purchase. The 25% came from I think it was like the 6th or 5th content block down, where it was talking about how you could save 25% when you buy like the jumbo size, containers of certain products. So completely unrelated and multiple content blocks away from each other. That's the kind of thing that, frankly, I see routinely. I'm probably really watching for it now, but that's a horrible, horrible experience, and not one where AI is really helping. Here's another example, so just to kind of make the point that it's not just deal cards that are pushing content down. This is like a highlight that the Gmail puts in. You'll see these a lot for delivery confirmations and order updates and that kind of stuff. And it's all in the same realm of annotations and schema. And I just wanted to point out that this also pushes down a lot of content, and sometimes is very, very wrong. Here we're desperately waiting for our K-pop Demon Hunter merch, and it's saying that it's arriving on September 4th, which is not true. It's arriving on September 5th, which Netflix very clearly has in the top of their email. So the date is wrong. And I think it's with an example like this that hopefully it makes everybody really wonder, all right, what are they trying to fix with all of these AI summaries? Because this Netflix email is clearly well designed. The delivery date is right there. It's very easy to see what problem are they trying to solve here. And I think that's the thing that, for me, that I struggle with the most. I feel like AI summaries are in many ways making things worse for marketers and introducing a ton of risk and variability for no good reason. Because most marketers, I feel like, know how to design an email at this point, and they know how to write a subject line and know how to write preview text. Again, wasn't always that way. I've been in this space for 2 decades now, and I can tell you that toward the beginning, a lot of not great emails were getting sent out by really big brands, but even much smaller brands now really understand the ins and outs. And so, I think this really cries out why do we need this? Is this really a problem that needs to be solved by AI summaries, or is this actually creating more problems than benefits? And I would argue it's creating more problems than benefits.
No, totally agree. And notice on the last slide there, the one-click unsubscribe is showing up with these emails, which shows that they have strong reputation. So it's not like you can do better with your reputation and save yourself from these things. So very interesting conundrum. And then taking it a step further by some things that I saw in the Yahoo mail, they were doing something very similar. This is one of their deal summaries, supposedly, but instead of actually elevating content from the sender, so the original content is an automotive service center. And of course, they're sending in this offer here. Well, none of that content is being surfaced. Instead, the deal summary that's pushing down the content is actually an ad for possibly a parallel car insurance rates. Okay, so it's possibly looking at content and trying to give parallel ads. But is it limiting to parallel ads? It begs more questions, like, is it going to surface competitor ads there as well? And even when Chad and I were talking about this earlier, just like with the SEO having this problem, will it surface your ads that cost you money, right, Chad?
I think that's very likely. Pay attention to this space, ladies and gentlemen. I think you will see your ads appearing above your emails, and people will be clicking on your ads, costing you media budget. I also think this is highly questionable in terms of calling this a deal summary, since it is clearly not a summary of the deals in the email. So that seems highly questionable. In some ways, this is really alarming. And on the other hand, I almost hope that this is kind of what happens with all of this, that this is the ultimate destination, is that all of the space becomes ads, because I think consumers, especially American consumers, are fantastic at ignoring ads. And if this space just becomes ad space, I think people will just scroll down past it, and it almost feel like it won't even be there. So that might be what we can hope for. That may be the good news about these kinds of placements, is that they become ads and people just get their ad blindness, force on this.
Yeah, and so that's quite a bit of content there, just different examples, and it's really important that we keep this, like Chad said earlier, all these different dots, they're telling a story. We got to connect them together as we see the regeneration of content. We're also seeing another movement towards non-chronological inbox experience. So this is where the recipient's inbox is not necessarily defaulting to the old, chronology of what's the newest content being sent. And it really causes issues, especially for those who lean or rely on top of inbox.
Yeah, so here's some very new functionality from Gmail, allowing you to sort your inbox by most relevant. So if you ever wish that your favorite social media brand's algorithm was applied to your email inbox, this is your opportunity to do that. I think it raises all kinds of questions, like the kinds of questions that get raised about social media feed algorithms, which is, okay, why are these appearing? Is it because of some of these brands? Maybe I'm engaged with some of these brands. Maybe they're getting a tilt because they also advertise on Google. They're big Google advertisers. Maybe they get an extra little nudge up in the relevance rankings. I think it invites a lot of questions. And I think the other thing that you kind of can't not mention is that we've been talking about how AI summaries are replacing subject lines, replacing preview text, replacing half of the content that appears in the preview pane. Those are the main places where you can create that first impression that leads to relevance, right? So I'm starting to wonder, are they kind of grading themselves a little bit? Are they grading their own algorithms and how well their systems are doing replacing our content? So it feels like the snake is eating its tail a little bit here in a not great way for us. I also think that launching this functionality right ahead of the holiday season is also maybe not the best for users. There's a lot of brands a lot of consumers that only engage with certain brands seasonally. And so it might cause some folks to miss some emails they really want because they only engage on a seasonal basis. So they might not be really engaging with them enough to get it up into, ranking high on relevance for the year. But for the holiday season, it'll be really relevant. I kind of imagine that this algorithm, whatever algorithm they're using, is not taking into consideration that kind of seasonal interest.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see more and more, sadly, with these things. And another one is the Apple Mail digest view, where they essentially try to tabulate by the sender. And what's interesting is it's very confusing how this is really set up. It doesn't just give you a very clean experience. What I've seen, and Chad can confirm in his end, is that the newest sender, the most new sender, will have their, digest tab at the top. And when you're looking at all the senders, and so everyone's emails will be tabulated into one tab for each sender. But when you click on this sender and you open it up, it's the first email is not the newest email. It is some email that you opened or engaged with the last time with them. And then it kind of goes sort of forward from there. Is that right?
Reverse chronology from the last time you engaged.
Yeah, and which sounds good if you're having conversations with people, right? But this is pretty much only happening with bulk mailers. So I don't know how that's really as relevant, like in the situation with United Airlines, like I'm not engaging with things if I don't have to, right? And then next thing you know, it's like that one time a year ago that I had a bad flight experience and I had to respond for something. And now that's the first thing when I'm trying to hurry up and find my confirmation number. And from that view, it's just not ideal.
Yeah, no, it's a train wreck, to be quite frank. I mean, the thing that mystifies me is that, inbox writers, they know how consumers engage with their inboxes, and there is a big chunk of consumers that subscribe to their favorite brands because they want them there when they know they're in market. They're like, oh, I'm going to buy from this brand. It's one of my favorite brands. I'm going to go check my inbox. I'm going to search for that brand name. I want to see what the latest deal is. It's not because they want to be checking that brand's emails every day. It's because they want them when they're ready to buy, and they'll go and search for them. This is a very, very common behavior. This is not new. And you see things like, sorting by most relevant that kind of goes against that. Frankly, the auto, the unsubscribe prompts that Gmail runs, like when you've been, inactive for 30 days, that's silly. That also ignores how a lot of people engage with their inbox in terms of brands. And these brand groupings by Apple do the exact same thing. It's really deeply counterintuitive and not useful. I really hope that Apple changes this and makes it so that it's the most recent, because for brands, that's really what you want to see, not the last email after the last time you engage with them.
Yeah.
That could be 3 months ago. All that content is probably expired, if it's promotional. So it doesn't make sense. And so I really hope that they fix this and flip it. It seems like it'd be pretty easy to fix, but right now it's just not. It's not useful.
Right. Yeah. And the final thing in this non-chronology section is something that we've all started to grow used to a little bit, which is tabbing. I use this Yahoo Mail example for tabbing because we're beginning to see different ones offering more nuanced and specialized tabs, like Yahoo's newsletter tab, rather than just your basic, your promotions and your primary. And so I think we're going to see a little bit more of that. And these things are going to be fed by AI. They're going to be fed by, custom user setups and things like that. And so I can't just skip over something like that.
Yeah, and I never really thought of these as being a way of viewing your inbox not chronologically, but it's true because it sections it. Yeah, and the AI that is categorizing emails, I think does a really good job. I don't have any problems with tabs at all. I have zero problems with tabs, and anybody who has followed me for a while has heard me, say don't try to game tabs. But I'll be honest, I'm starting to get nervous now because all of the stuff we're talking about, all of the ways in which AI is being used to change our messages, it only happens to emails in the promo tab. We are being singled out. And so I more than ever I have ever felt before, I understand why brands would want to get their promotional emails out of the promo tab, because we are being singled out for this treatment that is not applied to anybody else.
Right.
And again, and in my view, is widely not good on net. So yeah, but I still think this is not worth the time. It is still a losing battle to try to manipulate your way into a different tab. But again, I think I empathize more than ever before with people who desperately want to get out of the promo tab. But it's still not worth the effort. So I haven't changed my tune there, but but I'm feeling the pain in a way that I didn't ever before really feel why people desperately wanted to get out of the promo tab. Now I can see why.
Right. And that really brings us into what these things are really going to be impacting in, especially an unseen or is not being really thought about as publicly. And that's the new sort of deliverability hurdles that these kinds of things are going to cause. So I really see especially three complications that need some focus. Number one, the open rates from casual browsers, I think, are going to be massively impacted if this takes on in bulk. We see these deal card summaries and things like that. I know Chad's got a little bit of a different view on that.
Well, I mean, honestly, I have a little bit more of a different view on the second complication, which is
Okay.
they're like sort of together a little bit.
Right.
So say your piece on number two, and then I'll jump in.
Well, the one thing I'd say about number one is that a lot of people don't think about the gap between what is normal for an open rate versus click rate. We expect 30% of people to engage, at least as an open. But then when it comes to clicks, we only expect 2% to do unique clicks. And that difference in standards, I think, is that gap of people who are your casual browsers. And that's who I'm thinking about will be less likely to engage and give you, from a deliverability standpoint, what those needed open engagements to keep your reputation strong. And then that's going to be impacted, especially when the content is ignored because it was misrepresented or poorly summarized. That's the gist of it for me. It's like it's going to be when you get the wrong thing in the summary, okay, well, this doesn't mean anything to me. Okay, it's a summary about who this business is. I don't care about that email. Oh, it was actually a deal, but then they didn't give me the deal this time. Or they give, it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, sometimes people are going to miss out and not know that they missed out. And other times they're going to open the email and find that it's actually different from what they were expecting, which is, in my mind, the worst possible thing that can happen, right? That people give you your attention, give you their attention, and then they're disappointed, because that really, it suppresses open rates going forward. They feel like they've been tricked. They feel like their time has been wasted. It hurts the brand. It's not good all around. Like, you want the subject line, the preview text, and anything appearing pre-open, you want that content to help people understand, is this email for me?
Right.
Right. And so you want them to be able to decide, like, yes, there's a decent chance this email should be, I'm going to be interested in this, so that when they open it, they're finding stuff that reinforces that. But yes, with AI summaries, I think sometimes people are just going to totally miss stuff that it was totally for them, but they would have liked otherwise. And in other cases, it's going to be misrepresented. And they're like, oh, wow, 80% discount at Neiman Marcus. That sounds great. And then they're going to open it and it's not 80% off. It's only 25. Oh, wow, that sucks. Like, that's not what I was hoping to find there. And that really sucks all the wind out of that relationship, out of the excitement about that interaction. And it makes them hesitate the next time. Hey, is my time going to be wasted here? And that's never how you want your subscribers to be thinking. You don't want them to be making, an out loud, calculation about, oh, is my time going to be wasted here? You'd like them to be able to quickly make that decision for themselves and not be questioning it.
Yep. And then at the end of the day, one of the biggest tools we use to improve our engagement are, A/B testing subject lines. And this complication is the AIs could be replacing that. And how do you have control over improving your engagement rates and really knowing how to reach your audience when they're not even being used? So these are some of the most pivotal things that I see causing issues that we're going to address in a second.
Yeah, I mean, subject line's number one tested email element. Number one, it's the most tested thing. And AI summaries, if subject lines start getting, replaced like Yahoo started doing, that's not great. We lose a lot of ability to make our emails more relevant. I mean, frankly, I still, there was a period of time where I was routinely saying, hey, subject line's the number one tested element. Why isn't preview text like the number two?
Interesting.
And it was very rarely ever A/B tested. And now I think that's probably not worth your time because it's getting replaced in so many environments.
At least preview text is the
Yeah, preview
common
text
thread.
is very, very much in danger. I feel like we've lost the majority of preview text at this point.
Mhm.
And it pains me to think that subject lines could somehow be next.
Right.
But we've definitely lost the majority of preview text.
So it really leads us to the last part of this, where we want to real quick contextualize where are we seeing these changes in their relationship with the previous ages of email deliverability, the improvements that were done there. How is this one different? And then Chad and I are going to give our takes on how you can improve your strategies to deal with that.
Yeah, so here are the 7 ages of email deliverability. So the first stage, it was Wild West times. Like, there were no rules. You could do whatever you wanted, and nothing ever really happened to you. Second age, they start to put content filters in place, some block lists, some white lists. And it was very basic, very broad strokes. Third age, the report spam button. That's when spam really started to get under control. But smart marketers would bloat their list with inactive subscribers to try to get their complaint rate down. And so that ushered in the 4th age, which is where mailbox providers required your subscribers to not just tolerate your emails, but actually positively engage with them through opens and a variety of other actions. So that's great. The 5th age, we bring domain reputation on board. Previous to then, all of your reputation was attached to your IP address. So if you torched your reputation, you could just spin up a new IP address, which wasn't the easiest thing, but also wasn't terribly hard to do. Now it is attached to your domain name as well. And today, you essentially, any reputable brand can't run away from their domain name. So it makes your email reputation very, very, very sticky, which is great. Makes brands have to remediate appropriately when they are behaving inappropriately. So through the first 5 ages, all great. These are fantastic things, great for the email environment. I think anytime we're improving the email environment, that makes a better environment for marketers. Then things start to take a little bit of a turn. The 6th age is where Apple MPP comes along, and it obscures tons of open signals, which were, to this point, the #1 way that brands could determine whether or not people were engaging with their emails. It was a high frequency, a little bit of a noisy signal, but it was so high frequency that it was a great, great signal for deliverability remediation and being able to determine, hey, is this subscriber engaged or not? And we've lost a ton of those signals. Some B2C brands have lost 80% of their open signals. The B2B brands generally fare a lot better. They've only lost, like 20 or 30% of their open signals. The poor folks over at Apple who run Apple's email marketing program, they've essentially lost 100% of their open signals. So I kind of feel in some ways like the worst for them, because they didn't have anything to do with MPP. It wasn't their fault. But I know that they are struggling, post MPP. So not great, right? This is a signal like mailbox providers want us to send to folks who are engaged, and now they're taking away the #1 signal that allows us to follow their rules. Yeah. And then now in the 7th age, now we have AI summaries taking over, and we're losing a lot of high visibility, inbox space that is key to creating the relevance that all of the mailbox providers and inbox providers say that they want us to create. They want us to create relevance, but then they're taking away the key real estate that allows us to communicate relevance to our subscribers. So that, I think, prompts a couple of big questions. The first one is, what the heck is sender reputation measuring now? And I would argue that prior to these recent developments, sender reputation was, vast majority was measuring the sender, and a small percentage was measuring their ESP. ESPs have a small stake in reputation. The nuts and bolts of delivering things is, there's some signals in there that mailbox providers want to see done well, but I would say it was probably 10 10% your ESP and 90% the sender. And I think that the big change now with all these AI summaries is that the new person that's involved in this equation are the inbox providers. Now the inbox providers are part of that equation. So it's like 10% your ESP, maybe it's 70% you and 20% the inbox provider that your subscriber happens to be using to engage with your emails. And that's pretty wild. It's not completely a sender reputation anymore.
Right.
I mean, we might have to come up with a different name because it's not the sender's reputation entirely that's being measured for the first time. It's also partially, a measurement of how well the inbox providers and the mailbox providers' AI summaries are functioning and their other AI functionality, which is, again, new territory. This is not how this has ever been before. So that's pretty wild. And then I think the second big question is, do inbox providers have any kind of responsibility to accurately convey the content of an email as it's written? And I think here, like the analogy that's like impossible to ignore is like postal mail. And in some ways, the inbox is replacing the mailbox that's out on the street for a lot of communications. How would you feel if you got a correspondence from your doctor or from your utility? You got a bill or some kind of communication, whatever it was, and you opened it up and there was like a big sticker on the top of that letter that was, the United States Postal Service, like summarizing what was in that message, or that they put an ad in there. They stuck a sticker for an ad for, some brand that advertises through the United States Postal Service. That's an incredibly, that's an alien thought to even have. But in many ways, that's kind of the parallel. And so I don't know. I don't know if this is going to stand because it seems to me like this will eventually turn into some kind of lawsuit that a consumer will, in the age where I think it was Air Canada. Air Canada had a chatbot that authorized a refund to a customer that was outside of policy, and then tried to take it back, said, nope, sorry, that's outside of policy. And the consumer said, no, your chatbot said that was fine. It was a lawsuit, and Air Canada lost. They had to stand by what their chatbot said. And I'm worried that at some point, some consumer, some savvy, litigious consumer is going to say, hey, Neiman Marcus, you said it was 80% off, and now I open it up and I find that it's not. I'm suing you. That's false advertising. And of course, it would have nothing to do with Neiman Marcus at all. And so that would have to be proven. And then Neiman Marcus would then sue Gmail or whomever, saying, hey, look, you're altering my messages. You're creating, bad experiences for, my subscribers, for my customers, to the point where I'm getting sued. And then they would have to, so that's probably what would happen at some point. It seems I'm finding it very, very difficult to imagine that not happening at some point. It just seems like a matter of time before somebody gets cheesed off and and decides to sue. I mean, we are very litigious people here in America. So that's any of you who are listening, I know some of you are from America, feel free to sue somebody over these AI summaries.
But just skip the sender and go to your Gmail and Yahoo.
You can see, I don't think that's how it's going to go. I think it's going to go against the sender first. But feel free to, try to sue Google.
Well, what is your advice for dealing with that?
So some of my advice is it's not earth shattering. There's a little bit of it's hard to fight some of these forces. So I think one of the ways you can do is to be very descriptive in your subject lines. Yahoo is taking away some subject lines, but for the most part, we have subject lines intact. Preview text is what's really been attacked. And so it used to be you could write a very awesome subject line preview text combo, right? Where you could kind of make a joke with the subject line, and you could have your punchline in the preview text, or you could ask a question with the subject line and you could answer it with the preview text, which was great. You can't really do that anymore. We've lost too much preview text. So your subject line should stand alone and should be very descriptive. The second thing I would advise is to take a look at schema, take a look at deal cards, and in those instances where you think that, oh, they're definitely going to apply these to my email, consider coding it so it'll be correct. I think they're also going to apply that. Sometimes they're going to ignore them, and other times they're going to apply it even when you think it doesn't apply, like that Clinique example. Like that was not a good deal card to create. Like Clinique would not have made that a deal card because it was nonsensical, and it mixed up two different deals. So they wouldn't do that. But so it doesn't fully protect you, and it does take extra time. This is sort of like the tax that they're putting on us by having these policies in place to use AI summaries when we don't want them to. But the last thing is that all of these players are big advertising providers. So if you are a big company that does a lot of advertising with Google or with Yahoo or with Apple, anytime you're advertising people meet with any of these representatives from these companies, it would be awesome if they could mention how unhappy your brand is that they're messing up their emails. And they recognize that they're not the same group, but if enough brands do that, the message will eventually get over to the right people that this is jeopardizing their advertising business, which is big bucks. So I think like this is the protest recommendation here, is that like, if we could avert lawsuits, I think this would be the way to do it. It's to have them realize that like this is making their advertisers unhappy. And I think especially for folks like Google and Yahoo, I think they are very susceptible to advertiser pressure. Apple, not so much. They consider themselves a consumer-led company, but Google, definitely advertiser-led. They're business-led. So I think they would be very susceptible to this kind of messaging. So I encourage everyone to make unhappy the advertising people that you talk to at these brands, and let them know that your email people are not thrilled.
So good. And so I'd like to add a few pieces here from a deliverability standpoint. I think there are some things that you can do, not trying to battle or wrestle, because as we can see, AI is kind of do what AI is going to do, right? And so these are sort of the three principles that I would say for deliverability success. And I saw someone ask, like, what is Ordo planning to do to help with this? You'll find some interesting stuff here. I'll try to use examples. But number one is building brand loyalty with your email relationship. This is key to any email marketing success up till now, and then it's just going to continue to be that. What you want to do is make sure that your email strategy is creating consistent expectation where subscribers are knowing when you should be in the inbox, that you're constantly there, that you constantly have a voice talking about important things, and you're creating expectation and rewarding it every time, as well as giving back in some way. There's a lot of attention focused on promotional content, but building out more nurturing content, value content that gives back to your loyal customers, not just discounts, but even content about things that they care about, that you have as your business a niche understanding. Those can really create emotional rewards for your subscribers. And the point is to get them beyond the subject line and to seek you out consistently. From there, the second principle would be providing content worth engaging beyond a summary. Once again, you want to have really deep, enriching content that provides data and details that you want in detail rather than summarized, but also focusing on unique voicing, unique point of views, and even looking at content strategies that provide, say, hidden Easter eggs, or basically content that is unexpected and surprising and rewarding beyond just your basic content in the bulk part of your email, to help encourage people to know that there's more to your email than a simple summary can provide. And then from there, you're going to want to build strategies that use email as a midway point. Okay, we always do. We know that email is a part of the funnel, and everyone is thinking in that context. But at the end of the day, as more and more email engagements have become, obfuscated with machine or fake opens and clicks and things like that, it's become more important that your email leads somewhere, that it creates a relationship that goes beyond a simple perusal and becomes a back and forth that is easier for you to track via your other data sources as well.
Amazing. That was a great conversation. Thank you so much, Chad and Travis. Now, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments and we'll come to them very soon. I think we can all agree the inbox is changing faster than ever, but today really showed that smart, relationship-driven email still wins, no matter what technology gets layered on top. Now, before we wrap up, we'll jump to questions very soon, but for more from Chad, check out Zeta Global's Global Resource Center. There's incredible on-demand sessions from Zeta Live featuring Tom Brady, Serena Williams, and some of the sharpest minds in AI and marketing. And for auto users or anybody exploring marketing automation, we have a November offer for our webinar guests. You get 2 months free when you sign up for a 12-month plan. This is a limited offer valid for the month. So if you're on the fence, now's a good time to set up a trial. Just visit auto.com/EOY25 and you might see, if I can figure out how to switch it on, a QR code on the screen in a second. Now, back to Q&A. Ellen asked a great question. Are you seeing some of these AI features, are they discerning between corporate email addresses and free mail, for instance?
Yeah, so again, like these summaries are primarily only happening in the promotions tab. So if it's a Gmail address, that's not going to end up in the promo tab.
Right, and I'd also say as a reminder that it also depends on the app that they're viewing it in. So it's like Google's app is going to work how Google's app's going to work, and you can upload your work address and your personal address, and so there is potential that these summaries can be affecting if you're a B2B sender sending in bulk, for these providers at least. Great question. Yeah, I saw Melissa's comment. That's great.
Yeah, I saw it as well, and I hadn't heard that before. So I do wonder if that actually averts any lawsuits in the end. I don't know if that will save anybody, but why not? Definitely put that in there, and then you could at least say, oh yeah, we're aware that this was a problem. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it can't hurt.
Right.
Can't hurt. That's a good thought, Melissa.
That's a good question, especially how is Ordo planning to help with these new challenges? Funnily enough, a lot of the principles that I talked about really have to do with how you approach your email marketing strategy. Ordo is adding more and more AI tooling. We've got an AI tool that allows you to essentially use simple language to build a segment of your audience by just typing out what you're looking for. We're adding AI enrichment shapes in our automations where you can have subscribers run through and it can build out or add even new contact fields without you having to necessarily add them manually. You can have them run through stuff like that. So Ordo is definitely using and starting to provide more and more AI specific, but it's only going to equip you to do the good work, which at the end of the day, the content, we do have some content generation, but like I said, it's not just going to be basic AI content. It's going to need to be something that learns to reach beyond a simple perusal and gets that engagement there. But that's a great question.
Yeah, unfortunately, there aren't for most of these issues, there aren't really magic bullets that the ESPs can really use to help out our customers, which is unfortunate. I do want to stress that consumers, like inbox users, do have the ability to turn off some of these things. Like lots of brands, I think, unnecessarily freak out over tabs. I would point out that half of Gmail users have turned off tabs. And probably the same thing will happen over time with Apple Mail and their tabs. They're on by default, but you can turn them off. The things that I have more of a problem with are the things you can't turn off, like automatic extraction, introducing annotations to your emails and introducing deal cards to your emails. Even consumers don't have the ability to turn those off. So like, that doesn't seem like a great experience to me. I understand why they don't want to give brands the control. we used to have control over annotations. We used to be able to decide, hey, if we wanted this content to appear or not. And now we don't have that control anymore. So they don't tend to take us into consideration all that much. But the fact that some of these things are being done, without their users being able to even opt out of them, much less opt into them, I think that doesn't speak very well of some of these, so-called innovations.
No, that's a good point. And Burak asked a question around testing that. I haven't found anything. Being in marketing, I'm really keen to see how things are going to look across different email platforms, different devices, etc. But do we know any AI summarizer testing tools for email templates? I'm looking at that more broadly. I'd love to see how my email is going to be presented potentially, or the variations of that potential presentation by Google, Yahoo, etc. I haven't seen anything of any. Has anybody else seen any tools that can help you see how this is going to look potentially?
Test accounts. Got to have those test accounts.
Manual.
I mean, these are still sort of betaing out, so it's already hard enough. So, you got multiple problems. You've got Gmail and Yahoo. We don't know which AI, if they're using a public facing one or if they're using their own. And then they might be using their own data set within those. And then, of course, so it's going to be unique. Like he's saying, you could do your own sort of seed testing. But once again, you can't control forcing that AI summary. You could attempt to, outside of sending it to yourself in your own Gmail, you could attempt to have something like a ChatGPT or something like give a recap, but you're never going to know exactly what's going to happen, because that's part of this problem that we're bringing up, is that it's so out of our control, and we really don't know how much impact it's going to have moving forward. And that's just a little nerve-wracking. Yeah.
and to state the obvious, the models are always changing.
That's
right?
true too.
So you might see like some kind of behavior testing this month, but in 3 months the behavior will be different. Obviously all the mailboxes are using different models. Obviously what Gmail is doing with annotations and schema is very different from what Apple is doing. I will tell you that we did some testing for Apple summaries, and you would think, because the AI is on device, that there would be pretty significant variations, because essentially, obviously if you have like personalization, you're not sending largely the same email to everybody. There's going to be variations just because of the content variations. But if you were to send the exact same newsletter, say, to everybody, you would expect those summaries that would appear, if you were using, say, Gemini, it would be largely the same, because it's being done centrally. There's some variability there as well, but like you would think that there'd be a lot more on device with Apple Intelligence, and we didn't actually see a ton of variability. It was actually pretty narrow, which our conclusion was that most emails honestly don't have a lot of copy. Like, we've spent, the better part of the last decade writing shorter and shorter and shorter emails, like really compacting things down. I like to say that like the rule of good, copywriting in marketing is to write what you want to say and then cut it in half. And if you want to write great email marketing copy, cut it in half again. So that's like my rule of thumb for it. And so a lot of emails really just don't have a lot of content for the AI summary to just go wildly all off track. Which is, I think, why sometimes it's sucking in the legalese, because there's not a lot of like core content to a lot of promotional emails, because we've realized that people's time is very valuable, and we've compacted everything down to short, in many cases, non-sentences, which is fine, right? Because as Travis said, emails are largely gateways. They're just in between you and getting to a website or to an app. So that's serving the purpose. It doesn't have to be this like great, huge spelled out thing. It just has to be enough so that people realize, oh, I want to learn more, and I want to click through to the web or app.
Right.
Fascinating. Okay, well, we've gone over time, so thanks everybody for sticking around. Truly fascinating stuff. A huge thanks again to Chad S. White and Travis for sharing their expertise. And thanks again to all of you for joining us. Keep an eye on your inbox for the replay link. Hopefully it doesn't get summarized too much and you can tell what it is. You click it and you don't affect our deliverability. Stay tuned for more webinars from Auto, and have a great day or evening wherever you are. Thanks very much.